Hey everyone, this is Lisa from the Rhinestone World, and in this video I'm going to show you how to split up our dog designs from our dog peek packs, and I'm going to show you how to do it in both Silhouette Studio and CorelDRAW using the wizard. So we're going to split up our dog design and we're going to set it up to peek out of our little pockets. So I have a dog in my workspace. This is from the Dog Peek Pack Volume 3. I picked a golden because that's my favorite dog. And so we are going to break this apart so we can split the paws up for a pocket shirt. Now I'm going to show you in both Silhouette Studio and CorelDRAW with the wizard. The process is the same, it just has some slightly different buttons. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to resize my design before I break it apart. This came in 5 inches wide. Now, because it's going on a pocket, I want it to only be 3 inches wide. And the reason why I'm resizing it first is I'm going to break apart the shape, and that gets a little bit dicey when you need to resize it then. So I'm going to take my little dog, and up in this panel here, you can resize designs in Silhouette Studio. I'm going to turn on this little lock. This keeps the ratios proportionate. And I'm just going to go over here, type in 3, hit tab, and then hit enter. So now my little dog is 3 inches wide, and we're all set. So the hard part about this design is that the black right here is a solid layer. So when you want to break apart this dog, it gets a little tricky because you can't really like split that in half. So we're gonna right click on here, ungroup, and now you can see our layers are all separate. So if you see that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna break this part up and then keep everything else the same. So this little black part is going to be totally gone, and then I'm going to highlight and make sure my white's still there and this pink is still there. So we're working with this right here. So let me go over here, zoom in. And so the way the black was before, it was basically just an outline around it. So all we have to do is create a new outline with our split up shape. So let's go right here. I'm going to right click on my shape and I'm going to release compound path. So what I'm doing is I'm basically telling the software, hey, these lines were working together before, but now I want you to break all of it apart and they're all separate lines. And you can tell that I did that because each one of these shapes has a box around them. So we want to recombine the top part. We want the head to be together. So I'm going to highlight all of this, right click, and make compound path. So you can see the little dog shows up, and then these little paws are separate. So I'm going to grab this paw, hold shift, grab the second one, and then I'm going to make that a compound path as well. Okay, so now I have my two separate shapes. So now all I really need to do is make my border again. So the cool part in here is I can select 2 items and make an offset around both of them. So let's go over to the offset panel. Let's choose a distance. So I'm going to do a distance that's a little bit wide, so I'll do a distance of 0.1. And I hit enter to preview, and you can see that we have this nice little line around there. So even then, that's a little bit big, so I'm going to do 0.09 and kind of hit preview until I'm like happy with the result that I have. So let me do 0.08. I'm happy with this, and now let's hit apply. So now you can see I have my outlines around here, but it gets a little bit tricky with this guy. So if I move this out of the way, I have these little parts in here. And I don't want that. I want this to be one solid piece, so it's actually a really easy fix. I'm going to right click, release compound path, and then when you have all of these items selected, the same concept with holding down shift applies with this. I can hold down shift, click on this background because I want to keep it, and now all the parts that are still selected are parts I'm going to delete. So I can just press delete, and now I'm all set. So let me move this out of the way, and I want to make sure I keep these 2 paws as one object again. So let's go ahead and make that a compound path, and then this is all set. So if we fill this in black, now you can see we have this background. Check that out. So now I can bring this over, and I'm going to drag this over, and I want to make sure this black goes on the back, so let's go over and send this to back. And now I can kind of drag this over, and we can see how it works out again. Check that out. So now I can press this in 2 parts and have this set up as a pocket on my shirt. So for this design, I don't even really need this white part. I think it's just as cute that way. So I'm just going to click on that white part, move it to the side, and then I'm all set. So now I have my little doggy all set. All I have to do is set it up to cut. So I'm going to go over and separate my colors This design is actually symmetrical, so if you forget to mirror, you're totally fine, but I'm all set to cut. So I'm gonna go ahead, flip over to CorelDRAW on the wizard to show you the same process, and then we will cut and press our design. So let's go over here. I have my wizard open. So right here, my design is 5 inches wide. So we're just gonna go over, resize it again to 3 inches, hit enter, and now we're all good. So we're all set. Now we're gonna follow the same process. We're gonna right click, we're going to ungroup. So now you can see our objects are separate. And in CorelDRAW, you can kind of see them moving too. So let's go ahead and just delete that little white part. And let's go ahead and get rid of that black part. So now we wanna break this apart. So when we break this apart in CorelDRAW, basically instead of releasing compound path, we're going to break curve apart. So curves are referred to as your lines. So you're basically telling in CorelDRAW, hey, break these lines apart. So let's break curve apart. So you can see we have that same thing happen. These filled in. If we go over here to our wireframe view, our lines are still there. They're just filled in. So now I'm going to do the same trick that I did with the shift key. I'm going to hold down shift, I'm going to click on this paw and click on this paw. So now all these lines up here are still selected, and now we need to recombine these. So this is a cool trick that I really love doing in CorelDRAW. I'm going to click right here and do combine, and so it says the description, combine objects into single object with common properties. So if we click on here, boom. It's just like making compound path in Silhouette Studio. So let's go right here, let's hold down shift, grab this paw, and then we're going to go ahead and combine that as well. So now I have my 2 separate objects. And now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do our island. So an island is the equivalent of an offset in Silhouette Studio. So we can find that through our place and fill tab. And so we have a couple settings to do. We want to do an outside island. We want to do 1 island. And then the contour spacing is the same as spacing in Silhouette Studio. So we'll do 0.08. And then let's do island fill. So now you can see we have our island around here. And then once again, we do have that little inside part. So we're just gonna go over here, just like before, break curve apart, and now we can hold down shift, click on that part we wanna keep, and then just press delete. So now we can fill this in black so we can see it, and then we'll keep that going. And so now we have our little dog design all set up and ready to split. So now in the wizard, we'll go ahead and make our templates, get ready to cut, and we'll cut from Silhouette Studio for this. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut this, and then I will weed it, and we'll be ready to press it to a pocket on our shirt. So I have my shirt on the press here. This is just an older shirt that I had in my closet with a little pocket. So there's a couple of different things that we're gonna use to ensure that we have a good press on this shirt. The first thing is something that we typically do with all of our designs is that we're gonna go ahead and pre-press our shirt. This is gonna get out moisture and wrinkles. You know, this has been hanging in my closet in Florida for a little while, so, you know, safe to say that humidity has gotten to it. You know, there's wrinkles in it. So you want to get that good adherence with what you're working with. So over here we have our design. So what I did is I cut them out in 3 pieces. So I have 1, 2, and this tiny little guy, 3. So right here, this is Caesar EasyWeed in black. Now what we're going to do is we're going to tack down our EasyWeed on the pocket first. And the tricky part with vinyl is remembering if you can layer it or not. So EasyWeed, you can layer on top of it. You cannot layer on top of glitter though. So we're going to position this over here, and I'm going to kind of use this as a guide to make sure that I can have it centered. So I want this to be centered on my pocket because I'm going to have this little guy peeking out. So it's going to be pretty cute. Now with this, I'm going to use a little bit of our heat tape. This is a TRW Magic tape. This is a thermal tape. You can get it on our website. You can't use, you know, normal Scotch tape on this, but we're going to use this thermal tape just to make sure that this stays in place with our press, especially because we're doing this pocket. It can be kind of, you know, tricky, so we want to just get that little extra insurance. So let's tape that down. And now Caesar Vinyl, and the EasyWeed line in particular, does really great at activating after a second or 2. So you need the dwell time of 15 seconds, but it'll come off the carrier after just a second or 2. So we're just going to tack it down since we're doing multiple colors, and then we'll do a final press at the end. So I did my cover sheet. Let's bring down my press for just a couple seconds. So I have the Stahl's Max Press. This is a 15 by 15 heat press, and I have it set to 310 degrees. That's right in between what I normally press. Normally I do glitter on around 315, and I'll do EasyWeed at 305. So since I'm combining the materials, I just kind of split the difference. So I'm just picking up this tape, and I'm going to save it for the next one. Now we can lift up our carrier. You can see there is the black part, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut off the paws and the gold so I can do the next press. And again, we're just going to do a couple seconds at a time because we don't want our material to shrink too much. We don't want our vinyl to shrink too much. We just want it to be nice and safe. So there's our gold. And this is Caesar Glitter and Old Gold that I'm using for the dog. So let's go over here, grab my cover sheet, and again, just a couple seconds. And just make sure you have medium to firm pressure. You want your heat press to fight you a little bit as you're bringing it down, but you know, you still want it to be able to close it. So let's go ahead and lift this tape up. So there's the glitter. So now we're ready for the little face. Now this is our outside, so we don't have to worry about any more space. We can just have it just like this. And now one thing that you may notice is that my pocket is raised. So that can pose a problem because we want to make sure we have this part raised for us to press. So I'm going to use this small pressing pillow from our website, and I'm just going to go ahead, put it under my shirt, and I'm going to put it so that this part is raised higher than my pocket. So we have this set right here, and I'm going to do that. I'm not going to tape this one down, it's pretty safe. And this is going to fight me a little bit more because I have something raised. I may need to adjust my pressure, but let's go ahead and close this for a second. So it closed okay. If you have a hard time closing it, that's totally fine. Just lift it up, bring your pressure a little bit lighter, and then go from there. So here's our first press. Now we're going to do our second. And this is, again, the Caesar Glitter and Old Gold. We position that in there. Now we're going to bring that down for a couple seconds. And we do this outline for two reasons. One, to give definition of your dog on here with colors. If you notice, my shirt actually has a stripe in it. But two, it gives you a nice border for where to press to, and it makes it a lot easier to line up your design. So now I have this little tongue. And so I don't want the glitter from my carrier to get on my dog. I don't want to get marks in there. So even though this is my last press, I'm only going to cover and press it for a second or two, and then I'll do a full press. And I can go ahead, lift this up. And this is the Caesar Rose Gold. It came out earlier this year. It's a nice light pink. I think it's so cute. So let's go right here. And now I'm just going to go ahead and press this for about 8 to 10 seconds. A lot of my vinyl's already gotten a few seconds of heat, so I don't have to do the full 15, but I do need to make sure it gets a lot of time on here. Okay, so let's lift this up. And your cover sheet is going to be hot. Just be really careful. And check out this little cutie. So I did this little peeking dog design. This is from our TRW Dog Peek Pack. This is from volume 3. And I used Caesar Glitter in Old Gold and Rose Gold. And then I also used Caesar EasyWeed and Black for this background. So if you have any questions, feel free to comment below or email us at info@therhinestoneworld.com. Hey everyone, if you like this video, click here to subscribe to our YouTube channel. For more tutorials using our software, click here. And don't forget to like and comment.